as defined by the relevant sections of Order 6 of the Standing Orders of Parliament. Honourable colleagues, the NDC MPs...
So that was Dr. KCL Atoforsen, leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament. But the Vice President and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, has been mocking the National Democratic Congress in Parliament. What has he been saying? The Vice President said he has reminded the opposition NDC that parliamentary majority is achieved through wins at the polling station level within constituencies, not manufactured in Parliament. This follows Thursday's dramatic events in Parliament, where the Speaker declared 4 seats held by the MPs contesting the 2024 election on different tickets as vacant. These reduced the MPP's seat count and briefly granted the NDC a majority status. However, within 24 hours, the Supreme Court granted a stay of execution, nullifying the Speaker's ruling until the substantive case seeking an interpretation of the relevant constitutional article is heard. Now, let's listen to Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia when he mocked the National Democratic Congress at Nkoko.
Enti here pass yet to abanoma Dr. Bawumia, but here more so say and to abamano Emma Joseph Frimpong because ye pay parliamentary majority. And yes, sir, ye call Munim said the TSS here Omo Hayeno, 137. Enra Echi Omuye Adiebi wa parliament kase Omuni majority. Samotie. Anyway, Omuya 24 hours majority. Anjabia baby 24-hour majority. No Omunya. The shortest living majority that I know of in history. 24-hour majority. Now Omunya. Now, at the end I want to say, me person motie say, per majority. Come to the polling station, come to the constituency, win an election, and then go to Parliament. You untina Parliament to manufacture a majority for yourself. And yes, sir, we will meet them in the constituencies, we will meet them at the polling stations. And what I can assure you, from what I know, over 200 constituencies. I've campaigned on the ground. I've seen the data. And I can tell you, sir, Yato Abano and MPP will have a decisive majority in Parliament. There is no doubt about it. Yato Abano and MPP will have a decisive majority. Not a majority, but a decisive majority in Parliament. Now, on December 7th. Now, a coso said, by midnight on December 7th, Munyina Betty said MPP has a decisive majority in Parliament. No bones about it. We will win at the polling stations. We will win at the polling stations. Enti Munyina Muntu Abanumae.
That was the Vice President and flag bearer of the New Patriotic Party, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia. Is mocking the National Democratic Congress members of Parliament. Well, but are you looking for a delicious, palatable, and a sumptuous meal? If yes, then look no further. Contact Lepsira's Kitchen. Call them on 0505 830734 0505 830734 or 0593 398084. We have both continental and intercontinental dishes. We do weddings, parties, funerals. In fact, we do corporate events and all of that. Try as much as possible to contact Lepsira's Kitchen. Call them on 0505 830734 and on WhatsApp 0593-398084. We also do delivery within Accra. Try as much as possible to contact us for your delicious meal. I've been joined in the studio by my colleagues, Bless Koku Alomaso. Bless is the host of Good Morning Africa right here on Pan African Television. Bless.
Hello, Justice. I'm fine.
We are here again.
We are here again.
Right.
Right. Good to be back.
Good to be back. It's true. Also in the studio with me is my colleague, Greg Amwa. Greg Amwa is our parliamentary correspondent. Greg, how are you doing?
Justice, I'm hailing Haiti. I'm fine.
Right. We are here again.
Yeah.
I'll start with you, Bless. Tomorrow, I don't know what's going to happen in Parliament, but what are your expectations?
I think Greg would be best placed to first share his opinions on that. He's our parliamentary correspondent, and so Greg, what I'm taking the question for myself, and then
exactly.
to Greg.
You are deferring your question to
I want to defer my question. So Greg is, I think,
what do you
best
think
placed to answer that.
Would happen in Parliament tomorrow? Because now the majority, I'm talking about the MPP, they went to court and secured a stay of execution over Speaker's ruling. Now they still call themselves majority. They hold themselves in Parliament as majority. Yesterday, the NDC caucus in Parliament also held a press conference, and they are still saying that they will go by Speaker's ruling and that they are still majority in Parliament. And so now we have two majorities. We don't have any minority in Parliament. You are a parliamentary correspondent. I think you were at the press conference yesterday. What are your expectations?
Well, if the events of the speakership election in 2021 are anything to go by,
right,
I'm expecting that tomorrow will be chaotic. Chaotic in the sense that if you avert your mind to the event of the night of or the early hours of January 7th, 2021, when the new house was being, sworn in, new MPs were being sworn in, and then the 8th Parliament was being ushered.
Right.
There was a controversy as to who occupies the right-hand side of the speaker, which of course is the majority side of Parliament. Now that was one issue that arose during that time, and so if you remember, during that time there was chaos on the floor. It led to even the current MP for Ablikuma West, the Honorable Esla Gifty Ekufu, going to sit on Kwabena Mitakando,
right,
on account that Mitakando was occupying what she termed as her space. Now the NDC caucus, having the same numbers as the NPP, sought to impose themselves and claim that they had majority of the house, and so they walked to that side. It took the announcement that the Honorable MP for Fomena, who had come into the house as an independent member of Parliament, to reveal that he was caucusing with the NPP side.
Yeah.
That gave the NPP majority of the house, and so. And then so the election itself of the speaker, when one member of Parliament unceremoniously snatched the ballot papers, it led to a tussle. And then also the debate and election, or the debate and voting of the e-levy, as it then was, when the deputy speaker sought to join the counting, the quorum, and then be counted, which of course got members of the other side angry. So these are three different instances where the NPP, the NDC caucuses in Parliament have had issues to engage in a tussle. So that's what I'm expecting, by necessary implication, owing to some of the issues that have occurred in the House over the course of the lifetime of this Parliament. It is expected, even though that's not my wish, but if we're going by that, it is expected that there might be chaos in the House if steps are not taken.
Right, I'll come back to you, but now let me come to you. People are raising the issues of separation of powers and checks and balances, because you know that none of these organs of government is supposed to usurp the other's powers and all of that. People are of the view that the decision by the judiciary to grant stay of execution, when it comes to Speaker's ruling, is in a form usurping the powers of, Parliament and all of that. I don't know what your opinion is on some of these issues that people are raising.
Wow, interesting. Interesting question. So, as we all know, we all know for a fact that none of the three organs of government is entirely independent. And when I say entirely independent, I mean that none of them has absolute power.
Right.
So that's the reason for which we have checks and balances, where this organ of government checks this one checks the other one, to ensure that there is uniformity, or there's some form of uniformity, to also ensure that no one organ of government has so much power that it takes, unilateral decision that cannot be overturned by, by another organ. So that's the reason for which primarily we have, separation, checks and balances. However, in this instance, and I'm being extremely careful on this particular subject matter, because I also know that it's also a matter of law, and what the Constitution says, and what the duties of Parliament are, and what the duty of the judiciary is or are as well. So it's a whole box of issues. You understand what I'm saying? It's a whole box of issues. What does the Constitution of Ghana say in relation to what has transpired? What the court has done, is it in the ambit of the Constitution? The decision that Speaker Bagbin took last week, is it in the ambit of the Constitution of Ghana? Because aside everything, whether you are the executive, you are the judiciary, or you are the legislature, I don't think that you are exempt from what the Constitution says. Right. So all these organs of government take decisions based on what the Constitution of Ghana posits. You understand? So whatever decision that, the fundamental question that I believe we should be asking is that whatever decision that the judiciary has taken, is it in the ambit of the Constitution? Is the decision that the legislature, which is the Speaker of Parliament,
right, the
decision that he took in relation to these 4 MPs, does it fall within his remits? So these are the questions that we should be asking. So and I foresee an interesting day tomorrow, because the Speaker ruled on this matter, where he said that these 4 MPs who have crossed carpet, some of them belonging to the NDC, now contesting, or now will be contesting the next election as an independent candidate. 3 of them, or 2 of them belonging to the MPP, now contesting as independent candidates, and 1 independent candidate who has decided that he's going to contest on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party in the next election. So he's already taken on, a decision on that. He said they cannot continue to pretend to represent these people, and that he is excluding them from Parliament. I'm sure when it gets to Greg's turn to speak on this issue, he would find the right word, as far as what Speaker said is concerned. And so yes, a decision has already been arrived at by the Speaker. Then the majority leader, minority leader, I don't know what to refer to him as of now, Honorable Apengu Markin, the lawmaker for the Efutu constituency, he resorted to the Apex Court to seek a proper interpretation of what Article 97 of the 1992 Constitution says in relation to this instance. So he went to court, and the court says that they are staying the decision of the Speaker, and they are going to determine. I don't know how long that is going to take. I don't know when that is going to happen, where they are going to tell us that upon careful scrutiny, this is what Article 97 of the Constitution says, and this is what it means. We've had precedents, in 2020, a similar thing occurred involving somebody who is again involved in this one, the former MP, Andrew Isiama, Honorable Andrew Isiama. So this was done. The argument from the ruling government is that it was their party that drew the attention of the speaker, and then they wrote to the speaker and then asked that the then former MP, who was representing the people on the ticket of the New Patriotic Party, be taken out of Parliament, because now he's contesting as an independent candidate. I don't know what history says, particularly in relation to that, but as far as my memory serves me right, this was not challenged in court. So maybe there could be that excuse that because this wasn't challenged in court, the Supreme Court didn't get the opportunity to explain what that means. But however, I want to also find out, and this question goes to Greg.
Yeah.
If Parliament takes a decision, can, and without anybody necessarily resorting to the court to seek interpretation, if Parliament takes a decision and nobody goes to court, can the court on its own say that, look, this decision that you took in Parliament was wrong? I don't know if it's a human rights violation as they put it. I don't know if Andrew Isiama's issue, where he was representing a group of people, but he had to be thrown out of Parliament because he had decided to go independent. Could the court have said that was wrong, and so, or it needed somebody to first draw the attention of the court before the court, come out to say that, okay, this was wrong. Okay, so so that's it. However, personally, this is a personal opinion, and I said this earlier on the morning show.
Right.
I don't agree. I do not agree that once a parliamentarian decides to cross carpet, then it means that he should lose his status as a representative of a constituency, of a group of people. I don't believe that it is right, especially, people would say that I'm playing the devil's advocate. I sort of agree that for that tenure, for that 4-year tenure, the person should be allowed to represent the people. And in the next parliament, he's contesting on another ticket. I know what the Constitution says in relation to that, but I disagree with it. But if this is what the Constitution says, I feel that it should be applicable to all persons. So if in 2020 the former MP lost representation because he crossed carpet, or because he left the MPP and he decided to contest as an independent candidate, and so he was thrown out of Parliament, then I feel it should be applicable. It should be applied in the same vein as it was in 2020.
Well, if you listen to the former Speaker of Parliament, what he said about this matter is that circumstances under which the former MP at the time he had his seat declared vacant, it's different from the current one.
What are the circumstances?
This is because this one has been triggered by a member of Parliament. That of the former MP was triggered by the political party on whose ticket he contested and he was in Parliament.
Greg, and I think that Greg has a lot of explaining to do on this particular matter, because can a political party petition the Speaker of Parliament to remove a particular member of Parliament, or under which party's ticket that parliamentarian went into the lawmaking body? For me, is that possible, that a party can write to the Speaker and say, look, this is our MP, but he has decided to go solo, he has decided to go independent, and so I want you to take him out of Parliament because he does not represent our interest now. And then that brings me to the question: if I am voted into Parliament on the ticket of a political party, do I represent only the people who belong to my party in that particular constituency? Are they the only people I represent? Don't I represent both the NDC, the MPP, and all other persons who are in that constituency, irrespective of the fact that they did not vote for me? So why then will a party say that it was under their ticket or it was on their ticket that I went to Parliament and so I should be removed? I don't understand the logic in this argument,
right,
especially when I'm not representing only NPP. I'm an NPP member of Parliament for so and so, but I don't represent only the people in the NPP in that constituency. I represent all manner of persons.
I'll go to Greg, but there has also been an issue of fairness, that the rule of natural justice must apply.
Yes.
This is because the affected MPs have not been given any hearing. Granted and admitted that in the case of the former MP, nobody gave the former MP a fair hearing. Nobody listened to him. But the majority leader, as it stands now, says, well, although it happened in the past, but he would not want to be part of the current one because he believes that the affected members of Parliament must be given the opportunity to as well explain themselves. I mean, there are a lot of issues that people are raising with respect to the decision of the Speaker. How would you respond to that one too? I'll come to you.
Are people now supposed to give explanation as to why they decide to go solo, or they decide to go, to cross carpets? That, okay, this is the justification for me crossing carpets, and so please allow me to continue in my capacity as a member of Parliament for Fomena, or I'm in Fee Central. I think that the Constitution is clear. All right. On this one. Let me take you to Article 97 of the 1992 Constitution. A member of Parliament shall vacate his seat in Parliament upon a dissolution of Parliament, or if he is elected as Speaker of Parliament, or if he is absent without the permission. I think all of these are not what applies to this particular one. So let's go to Jane. It says, if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party, or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member, or if he was elected a member of Parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. This is what the Constitution says, and it beggars belief that people would want to seek an interpretation of this very comprehensive. It is extremely comprehensive. It is basic that if he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party, or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent candidate, and mind you, 3 of these persons have now left their party and are now and will be contesting
as independent
the next election as independent candidates. Now, the Constitution does not tell us that this Parliament has to what's the right word? Has to die out,
be dissolved or something.
Yes, the Constitution does not tell us that the said individual will continue in his capacity despite crossing carpet until Parliament is dissolved on 6th January 2025. The Constitution does not say that. It says that as soon as, and for me the words here are very important. If he leaves the party of which he was a member at the time of his election to Parliament to join another party, or seeks to remain in Parliament as an independent member, and these ones are seeking to remain in Parliament. It's not as if that they are not contesting again. I've left the party, but I'm not contesting the next elections. They are contesting the next elections as independent candidates. One, and then when you go to H, if he was elected a member of Parliament as an independent candidate and joins a political party. Andrew Isiama.
Yes. He went to Parliament as an independent candidate.
And now is back with the NPP
exactly.
and contesting on the ticket of the NPP for the former constituency. So where I cannot for the life of me understand that people who have had so much education have been to the upper echelons of whatever schools that they, and would say that they need interpretation for this. I cannot understand that.
The law, they say, lies in the bosom of the judge.
Well,
and what the judge says is the law, and I'm sure that is why they are at the Supreme Court for interpretation. So what the Supreme Court says is the law in terms of Article 97, 1H, G and H would probably be the law. So let's wait until the Supreme Court comes out with its interpretation on these, provision in the Constitution. But Greg, before we move to the Volta region, they say that Parliament is a master of its own rules and all of that. You are a parliamentary correspondent. You understand the parliamentary processes and all of that. They have their standing order and other documents they work with. I mean, why would any other organ, in terms of the judiciary executive, take a decision against an institution that is equally as those other institutions and, has its own rules and regulations that it works with? As a parliamentary correspondent, did we witness anything like this before?
That's it. So if anybody who has, delved a bit deeper into some level of reading of the law, one of the landmark cases of Ghana's constitutional law has been the case of Tufo versus Attorney General, of which the lead counsel for that case was Ghana's current president, Akufo-Addo. Now, in that case, one Fred Akpaloo had been appointed as CJ, and then he went for vetting, and at vetting he was rejected by Parliament. Now, Amaku Tufo took the case to court, and then Nana Akufo-Addo's contention as lawyer in that case, of course, was that because the Constitution did not expressly give Parliament the mandate to vet the then Speaker upon the coming into force of the 1981 Republic, as it then was, Parliament's power to do such action was ousted. Now, the court made certain rulings at the time. One of these rulings was that, one, the then Speaker was not a competent witness in the case. Two, that proceedings of Parliament are a closed book, and hence the court could not seek to interfere in them. But what the court did was, the court interpreted the Constitution as to whether or not Parliament acted within the remit of its powers in vetting the CJ. The court found out that even though Parliament was the master of its own procedures, once they overlapped with the Constitution itself, such action was void to the extent of such voidity. And so that is one thing.
How different is the current situation from what happened in Tufo versus Attorney General? Because when it comes to this one, I'm sure the Speaker of Parliament worked within his power.
Yes.
He was working within the powers of the Constitution, because what he did, is premised on Article 97, 1, G and H. But the Supreme Court says, listen, hold on. Let's stay your execution of your ruling until we interpret the Constitution to mean what you're looking for.
Right. So the courts, in essence, sought to stay the execution. One of the court's reasons was that representation of the people was quite key. But just as if you read carefully the ruling of the Right Honorable Speaker, he anchored his decision. Well, he even says it's not a ruling. He said it was an application of what the law says.
Okay.
Now, mind you, Article 11 itself grants that there be a hierarchy of laws. Now, it also says that in as much as there are other sources of laws in Ghana, all these laws must be in conformity with the Constitution. So the standing orders were carved out of the Constitution. In fact, there's no part of the orders of Parliament that does not conform with Ghanaian law, and that's how come even in 2021, when during the election over the e-levy, when the deputy speaker sought to vote and he was stopped, the court ruled that no, the part of the standing orders of that precludes or that prescribes the deputy speaker from voting was null and void, because at any point in time the deputy speaker is not the speaker. The speaker is sui generis, and so a deputy speaker is still a member of the House and hence must be allowed to vote. And so the court has from time to time ruled on occasions where the House's standing orders or the House's conventions are not in tandem with the Constitution. In this case, the speaker said, in application of the tenet or the dictate of Article 97, the Constitution sought to require that such members of the House, where they seek to cross carpet or where they have defected and then contested for re-election as independent candidates, or are crossing carpet from being independent MPs to become candidates of a particular party, then the Constitution should grant that they forfeit their seats. Now, he said, what is the evidence that indeed you are seeking for re-election? What's the evidence that you are seeking for re-election on a ticket different from that on which you came to Parliament? The notice of poll by the Electoral Commission, which is the constitutionally mandated body to superintend elections in Ghana. And so the Right Honourable Speaker in his decision said, in application of the law, which he did not seek to interpret but to merely apply, the notice of poll by the EC was the evidence which he sought. Now, on the face of that evidence, it was clear that these three MPs who had joined the House as members on the ticket of the NDC and the NPP had left the ticket of the parties on which they came to Parliament to contest as independent candidates. Now, when he applies the notice of poll of the EC, the conduct of the MPs, and then the Constitution, it is quite clear that they have flouted the dictate of Article 97. For the independent member, again, the notice of poll is prima facie evidence that indeed he is contesting for re-election. As what? If the Constitution said you cannot contest on a different ticket than the one on which you came to Parliament, and the notice of poll of the EC showing that Andrew Esiama is not contesting as an independent candidate, but he's contesting as a member or on the ticket of the LPP, then in application of the law, it is quite clear that they have flouted the Constitution. Just mind you, the Speaker is also the sole body by the orders of the House who can perform such action. And so the Speaker was performing an action that has been granted to him by the standing orders of the House. And so, even if you listen to the argument proffered by the NDC caucus, they are saying that until the Supreme Court gives a determination by way of interpretation, the Speaker was performing an action imposed on him by law, i.e. the Constitution and the standing orders, which is the governing compass of the House. And so that's why they are saying that until an interpretation is given contrary to the decision arrived at by the Speaker, they believe that the Speaker is still within the remit of law, and that's why they are challenging the ruling and saying that they are the majority on account that the Speaker has applied what the law says, and until an interpretation renders that ruling or that decision voidable, then they are within their remit. And so that is the position of standing orders of Parliament.
Now let's see what happens tomorrow in Parliament. But Honorable Afenyo Marking says there will be no showdown on Tuesday. We will walk out if. So, I mean, those who are expecting a showdown in Parliament tomorrow, well, this is what Afenyo Marking had to say. But now let's go straight to the Volta region. Take us to the various constituencies. Let's look at the historical performance of the various political parties.
All right, Justice. So this is the Volta region. This is the headquarters of the NDC in Ghana. This is the region they are always, confident of winning, come what may. And so there are 18 constituencies, so 18 seats in that region. Currently, one is occupied by the NPP, that's the Hohoi seat by John Peter Mewu, and then 17 seats belong to the NDC. In the 2016 election, NPP got 0
Oh, the
seats.
Volta region has, the entire Volta region has just 18
constituencies.
Just?
Yes, 18.
Oh, I see.
Now, just as from 92 through to 2016, the NPP has never won a seat over there. Until 2021, John Peter Mewu won the Hohoi seat. Now, this is the breakdown of the map of the region. So only one seat, that's a blue seat, Hohoi. Aside from that, in fact, there are very deep green seats over here, very deep green seats, except for the Pando constituency, which is not very deep green, and then also the Ketu North constituency, which is not very deep. Now, aside from that, every other seat over here, from Akachi to Ho Central to Ho West, these are, in fact, in North Tong, Samuel Okudeto Ablaka won with 89% of the vote cast. So it tells you how popular the NDC is.
He's calling for 94%.
94. Yeah, I was there this weekend, and you know the numbers that trooped in were quite significant. Now let's start off with the Adaklu constituency.
Okay.
That is the constituency of the current, I don't know whether to say minority or majority, but as per the speaker's ruling, that's the seat of the current majority chief whip.
Of Kwame Gavins
Agboja
Okay.
is, as per the ruling of the speaker, the majority chief whip. And so that constituency was carved out in 2012, and since then he has been MP for that area. So he has won in 12, 16, and then 2020. Now in the last election, he won with 13,117 as against Rayburn Evans and Adis 2,215. So that is some close to 11,000 vote margin between. And then there are 19,000 people in that constituency, and so who vote, and so he won majority of the vote, 85% of the total vote cast.
The LPG candidate had 0. He didn't even vote for himself.
In that side, they are religious NDC. They don't have time for schemings and no.
No, but the candidate votes at that constituency.
Yes, 0.
So it doesn't mean that he didn't vote.
So
for
even
himself.
he didn't even believe that. You know, any other candidate was winning this.
Oh, bless. I mean, you are here. You are contesting in a constituency. You vote in that constituency. At the end of the day, you had 0. Doesn't mean that you did not vote for yourself.
He has supporters, he has party executives, he has 0 in that parliament.
LPG. Yeah.
I know who he voted for.
Oh, I see.
Of course, financial implication. But I mean, he has executives over there.
Yes.
If you are contesting on the ticket of a party, then the rules of the EC apply to you, and so you have to have party offices in some of
I mean, like we all know, these political parties, the NDC and NPP, they have their own offshoots.
Well, it's true.
Clothed in the names of other political parties over there. And so their executives actually do work to favor their mother political parties.
True.
You understand? So perhaps the LPG candidate was scheming for the NDC or NPP, and so
Now let's go to the
right. So
the history of that.
Gavins Agboja, 88% in 2012, 89% in 2016, and then 85% in 2020. In the last election, the NPP candidate got 1,048 votes in 2020. That was in 2016. In 2020, he garnered 2,215. The NDC got 10,337 in 2016, and then they update to 13,170. So, I think Adaklu is very close to Ho. I think that's where the famous Adaklu mountain is, and so it is not quite a big place. So even if you go through the numbers, you realize they are not huge, but still the NDC manages to pull such numbers. It tells you the how famed the NDC is over there now.
But in 20, let's go back. In 2020, the MPP had a net gain of I think 5%.
5.5%.
And then NDC had the loss
3.4. Meaning that the percentage with which the NDC's candidate was expected to win actually plummeted.
Right.
And that's true because the NPP only added 1,000 100 plus votes, but the NDC managed to add 2,000 plus. And so, if you are going by the vote, there was an appreciation in the vote, but the percentage with which the NDC should have won, if you are comparing the previous elections results, there was a 3.4% drop, and so meaning that NPP's net gain was quite significant in terms of even the numbers than the NDC. So that's what
you can
is to account for that. Now, this is the breakdown of the region as far as the presidential election. Yes, the region as far as the presidential election is concerned. In 2020, Nana Akufo-Addo of the NPP got 101,084 votes. John Mahama got 606,424. Now, just in context, the vote the NDC's John Mahama garnered in Volta region, as far as the last election was concerned, is superseded by the vote John Mahama got in the Ashanti region.
Yes.
And so it tells you how the numbers play out. Oftentimes, I hear people say that the NPP win elections with huge margins. The NDC doesn't get so. It is because of demographics. Now, Volta region has 18 seats. Ashanti region has over 40 seats. And so they are twice as huge in terms of the numbers if you are to compare both power banks or world banks of both parties. And so that is how elections should be viewed in terms of the numbers which vote. Now in 2016, the NPP got 60,802. So the NPP actually upped their vote count significantly, about some 40,000 more votes in 2020. But the NDC, of course, managed to get in excess of 100,000 votes more in 2020 compared to the vote they got in 2016. Now this is the voting trend of the region. In 96, of course, that was Rawlings. He got 94.9%. NPP just got 4.4%. But in 2000, Mills came on board. The votes dwindled, so it came to 87.5%. NPP up to 6.8%. In 2004, Mills again upped it to 90%, and then the NPP upped also to 9%. And then in 2008, when Mills actually won the election, it dropped a little bit from 90 to 89.2. The NPP also dropped a little bit to 8.9. And then in 2012, when John Mahama won, it's up again to 91.4. And then the NPP dropped from 8.9 to 7.4. And then in 2016, when the NDC won by quite a huge margin, the Volta region's vote dropped from 91% to 87.7. And then the NPP's vote count, rose from 7.4 to 10.8. And then in 2020, it dropped again from 87 to 84. Whereas the NPP's vote count rose from 10 to 14.1. And so that's quite interesting over there. When we go to the Ashanti region, we'll again see whether the NDC is also having some net gain over there. Yeah, so this is also the result. I mean, for the presidential polls, the NPP couldn't win any of the seats or the constituencies over there. And so if we go straight to Adaklu, in 2020, John Mahama 13,250, Nana Akufo-Addo 1,967. So he got slightly more than Gavin's Boja was able to garner in the parliamentary election. And so, of course, Adaklu, like most of the parts of the region, are green seats. And if the NDC is looking to, emerge victorious in this year's election, this is one of the things they should be looking at. In as much as they are gaining votes from other places, they also need to ensure that their backyard is secure, because it looks like the NPP is gaining some ground, even though it is not so much.
In the matter of 2020, I learned there was a voter apathy.
Over there
in the Volta region, because a lot of people did not, really go out to vote for the National Democratic Congress in their numbers.
I think it was in 16 and then 20 as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So if there's something wrong they are doing over there, I think that the NDC has to try, they have to try and then correct it. I don't know, Greg, what you have to say about that. Bless.
Why does everyone call bless Greg and call me?
Sorry, bless Koku Alomaso.
Right. Greg was making the point that if you look at regions like the Ashanti region, it appears the NDC gets a lot of numbers there too.
Right.
But the reason for which the NDC, the Volta region is referred to as the World Bank of the National Democratic Congress is not because they get the most number of votes there. It's because they get, in percentages, they have their best performance in terms of percentage from the Volta region.
Right.
If you look at the 2020 election, if you look at the number of votes that the NDC polled in the Ashanti region, it's probably even more than what they polled in the Volta region. But when you make a breakdown, you look at the percentage wise, the number of votes that was there to share between the NDC and then the NPP, and what the NDC got in the Ashanti region, and you put that side by side, what they were able to garner in the Volta region, you get to realize that in terms of percentages, they get more. That is the World Bank. That is where they get their biggest percentages from. So that's that. There's this argument that in 2020 there was in 2016 especially there was voter apathy in the Volta region that saw the New Patriotic Party make some gains, not so big, but then I mean, if people who vote for you ideally decide that a good number of them, even if 20% of them decide that they're not going to vote at all, then that's going to deeply affect you. And that's one of the reasons for which the NDC lost the 2016 election. 2020, I cannot justify why the NDC lost a seat in the Volta region. I'd be lying if I say I know the reason. This is why, they lost the whole West seats. But
Right.
I think the South issue had a part to play.
Well, the fact that they were exempt.
Yes, I've heard some arguments.
Because they were actually part.
Yes.
They were actually part of that enclave.
The Akpafu areas, Lolobi, they
Yeah, Santroko, Akpafu, Lolobi, and Lipe.
And always at the far end,
Yeah.
if you look at the map, always at the far end of the...
So their numbers would have actually made a difference. Yes, that's true. So in 2020, can we go to the results of 2020?
For the Volta region?
Yes, for the Volta region, 2020 Volta region. If you look at the 2020 results, you'd again realize that the NPP again made some gains. And so that was that was why we saw Peter Amewu, as far as Parliament, for the first time in Ghana's political history, the NPP wins a seat in the Volta region. It has never happened. Now, as to what to expect in the upcoming elections, let me say this. I don't expect Peter Amewu to maintain his seats. I don't expect that to happen. A lot of issues that have arisen from this particular parliament lends some sort of credence to what I am saying. I believe so. I don't expect that Peter Amewu would retain the whole West seat. One, for the very fact that it's not a traditional seat of the NPP to start with. And something happened. The SAL issue, as Greg stated rightly, also contributed to that.
Because they all vote, they were part of the whole West.
Yes. So the SAL issue is part of that. And also, all the shenanigans that have gone on as far as this parliament is concerned, and already I see a lot of NPP MPs not being in the good books of their parliamentarians. I'm sorry, I don't know how to embellish. I don't know how to embellish that and then say it on TV. But I think that for many things that have happened in our parliament, the passage of e-levy and some decisions that were taken where we clearly see that it was NPP members of parliament who are at the forefront of these decisions. I know for a fact that they are going to be dealt a blow. A lot of them are going to be dealt a blow as far as Parliament is concerned. And the Hohwe seat, which is a traditional seat of the National Democratic Congress, I believe that is going to go back to the NDC. I'll be surprised again. I'll be very much surprised if the NPP wins any seat in the Volta region this time around, especially with all that is happening as well. The president's utterances would go to Mefe and say that you don't vote for me, I'm not supposed to be here, but I'm the father of the nation, but so I'm here. He would tell Togbi Fiti of Aflawo that if you want, you can go and construct the E-block.
If he wants the E-block to be completed,
you should go and construct it. So all of these things, for me personally, I believe that has aroused the eye of the Votarians, and it will be very difficult. I'm expecting a better voter turnout this time around. I see a lot of Votarians coming out to vote this time around, and I see the MPP suffering in the Volta region. That's a personal, from a personal point of view.
Let's move to
Afajato South Constituency.
And you see, the rules of natural justice. We say what? Nemo Udex in Cosa Soa. No man shall be a judge in his own cause or case.
And who is that person?
Of course, bless Alon. This is the constituency of Bless Koku Alon, the host of the Good Morning Africa show on Pan-African TV. And a very good friend of his is the current member of parliament. Of course, she lost the primaries, and so she's not going to be very good friend. And I know where I'm coming from. I'm sure you explain further. Afadato South constituency in 2020, NPP garnered 7,676 votes. In 2016, their vote count was 3,133. In 2020, NDC got 19,577. In 2016. 19,486. I'm not too shocked Angela Aloute lost the primaries on account that the confidence was not huge, because if the NPP gets 4,000 more votes than what they garnered in 2016 in the Volta region, and then the NDC's candidate just adds a little over 100 votes. 100 votes more. That's unpardonable. That's egregious. If in the Volta region you're a member of parliament and in 2016 you garnered 19,486 in the Volta region, and then your opponent garners 3,133, in the next election you just get a little over 81 votes. So your vote count just rises from 19,486 to 19,577. That's egregious.
Well, someone moves from 3,133 to 7,000. That's about 4,500. Yeah.
And so the net gain on the side of the NPP's candidate is 14.4%.
Yeah.
Your net loss is 12.4%.
And that's huge.
It's unpardonable.
Yeah.
So I'm not too shocked she lost the primaries, because her confidence, the confidence of the people in that constituency was winning. Just now, I want you to check the numbers, the difference in the numbers from 2016 to 2020 as far as that constituency is concerned, because in the 2020 election the voter population was 35,288. So I would like to make a comparison between the numbers, so we see how come the NDC just added a little over 81 votes in the voter region. That's unpardonable. So Angela Ofoyiwa Aloute 19,577. Flolu Etonam James NPP 7,676, and then Bankers Yaukuma Edem 218 on the side of the NDP. Now there was a voter roll of 35,288 people. So as I said, it in your constituency, it's unpardonable. Now,
so 2016,
okay, sure.
Angela Foriwa Aloute 19,486, representing 83.69%. The MPP candidate Semano Wisdom had 3,133, yes, representing 13.46%. Fiat Kwesi Hansen of PPP had 612 votes, representing 2.63%, and George Kofi Kotoku had 53 votes, representing 0.23%. George contested on a ticket of the CPP.
Right.
But if you come to the presidential, John Mahama had 20,384, representing 88.11%. Whereas Nana Dankwa Akufo-Addo had 2,235, representing 9.66%.
That was in what year?
2016.
That was in 2016.
Right, okay. And then last election.
Now let's go to 2012, right?
Yeah.
No, 2016.
No, so just I just did
2016.
so I also like to know the voter roll, the number of persons who voted in 2016.
That is not showing.
That's not showing. Okay. Okay. Because I'm shocked as to how, even if the numbers are added, how can the NDC's candidate just get a little over 81 votes, and then MPP get almost 4,000 more votes in the Volta region?
Can we look at the presidential?
So in the presidential election, Afadato South, John Mahama garners 23,261.
So yes, so that's
so
about
the 4,000 who gave their votes to John Mahama refrained or declined from voting for the MP.
Yes,
And
exactly.
I mean that is
Exactly.
unless there is any contrary evidence to disprove what I've just said. Any man
So
guided by
23,000
these numbers.
So
can make such
implication. for interesting numbers, and it's pretty obvious. Nana
Very
Akufo-Addo
interesting.
garners 3,754, but his parliamentary candidate garnered in excess of 7,000. So
7,000.
that 4,000 that is
That's
lost from
gap
John
over
Mahama.
there.
Yes, I think it's
And
really
so
clear.
I think
It's really clear.
Angela Ofori Alawute
Lost
because
popularity.
the people did not have her confidence.
Afadato South is a place the NDC should be working extremely hard to ensure that they get more votes than what they are getting already. Because let's go to 2016. 2016, Joseph Amenowode had 22,029 votes, representing 84.33%. Ima Millicent Kati had 3,784, representing 14.49%. Now, if you come to the presidential, John Mahama had 24,184, representing 92.03%. And President Akufo-Addo had 1,886 votes, representing 7.18%. It looks as if the NDC has been losing votes
over there
in that constituency since 2016.
Right. And so let's move to the Agotime Ziopi. I have some connections to this constituency. I'm not going to tell you. Ziope. Oh, okay. Bless. Am I right?
Ziope.
But bless. I think you have some very, keen ambitions for.
So I come from two constituencies. My father comes from Ketu South.
Okay.
My mother comes from Afadato South. Except that I'm a little Afadato South biased because I was born there, and I grew up there. But I love the people of Ketu South. Ketu South, in the Volta region for the NDC, Ketu South is probably
the headquarters.
It's probably the headquarters.
Right.
But let me also say on record that everything I say here on the show is a personal opinion. It will shock people to know that I have uncles who actually belong to the New Patriotic Party. I have uncles, like direct uncles from my mother's family. I have uncles from my father's family. I have a cousin who is a staunch member of the New Patriotic Party. I have my own mother who strongly supports a New Patriotic Party parliamentary candidate here in the Greater Accra area, and voted for him in 2020 and will be voting for him in 2024. So I mean,
that's quite
you understand.
But do you have, would you
I think, of course, I do love the people of Afadjato South. I do love the people of Afadjato South constituency.
In the past few years, we have seen a trend where media men are slowly crossing onto the aisle of...
If in future the opportunity presents itself, I'm not going to say no to it.
I think
I love Afadjato South to the core, and I'm entreating all of you to visit. I'm entreating all of you to visit Afadjato South.
Definitely.
We should try and then visit the Afadjato mountain. The Afadjato. You don't say Afadjato mountain. To means mountain already, so you say the Afadja mountain
or the Afadjato.
Okay,
that's actually I can give you all a piece of land on the mountain.
Right. Anyway, so let's move over to Agbotime's ZOP. That is the constituency of Charles Agbeve. He's the deputy ranking member on the health committee.
Corrected. It's all ZOP.
I think Voltarians are my brothers and sisters. I think they'll forgive me because of the donation. I have a deep account. So
North. Yes. I'm told you have an interest. Anyway, but go on.
Right. So in 2016, the NPP got 510 votes. 510 justice. NDC 11,617 in 2020. NPP 2,659. NDC in 2020, 19,143. Now, this is what I'm talking about. Now, because every year or every election year, there are new names added to the voter roll, it is expected that the NPP will have an appreciation in their numbers as far as people who are likely to vote for them. And then the NDC will also have same. And so, if you look here, NPP's vote rise from 510 to 2,659. So that's
more than 1,500.
Yes. But the NDC's vote also rise from 11,000 to 19,000.
Okay.
And so the NDC has a net gain over here. The NPP also has a net gain over there. The NPP has net gain of 9 plus 1. The NDC has net gain of 18.2. And so
times 2 what the NPP.
Yes. And so Charles Agbeve can be construed to be a member of parliament who has the confidence of his people, because in as much as the NPP's vote is appreciated, which is normal, because every election year when numbers are added onto the roll, of course not all these names will be NDC. There will be people who are likely to vote for the NPP and people who are likely to vote for the NDC.
Right.
But in as much as the NPP is having a net gain, he's also having a significant net gain, and so he in fact in the last election, from 96 NDC 96, 91, 2085, 2004 45, 2008 55, 2012 78, 2016 69, and then he rises the numbers from 69% in 2016 to 87.8 in 2020. So it tells you that Charles Agbeve has the confidence of his people. So Charles Agbeve 19,143, John Kweku Amenya 2,659. The voter population is 28,950, and so from 96 to 2000, Steve Senu Akoli was MP, and then from 2000 to 2004 he retained that seat, and in 2004 Juliana Zuma Mensah came on board, won again on a ticket of the NDC, and she ran from 2004 to 2012 where she was the MP until Charles Kwame Agbeve came on board in 2016, wins with a 70% vote margin, and then he ups it to 87.8 in 2020, and so that is Charles Agbeve, deputy ranking member on the Health Committee of Parliament. And then when it comes to the presidential election, NPP in 2016 got 1,394 votes. The NDC got 14,974. In 2020, NPP gets 2,766, NDC 18,592. And so there's also, even though it's not as significant in comparison with the parliamentary election, there's still over 3,000 votes added onto their voter margin over the.
However, there was a net loss.
Yes. 2.9. NPP has a 4.5. But even though there's a net loss, there's still an increase in the votes. There's an increment in the votes, and so if you are comparing it to Afadjato South, then there's a discrepancy.
There's a huge one.
Yes. And so from 96 for the presidential election, NDC gets 96.5, NPP 3% of the votes, NDC in 2000, 91.8, NPP 3.6. In 2004, 90.7, NPP 7.5. In 2008, NDC 9.1, NPP 5.9. In 2012, NDC 90.4, NPP 7.4. In 2016, 88.8, NPP 8.3. And then in 2020, NDC 85.9, NPP 12.8. And so the vote, even though they seem to be flatlining over here, that's not the case. In some elections, NPP's votes dwindle, but they are still within the 80% margin, and so it tells you how popular
80 and 90.
Yes, they've never dropped out of that. And so John Mahama in 2020 garners 18,592 as against Nana Akufo-Addo's 2,766. Goom gets 158, CPP 32, NDP 24. One independent candidate garners 20, Ayaga of APC 17, Akpalo of LPG 13, GCPP 11, PNC 10, PPP 7, and then GFP, Ekwiadonkos GFP 6. And so that is the breakdown of the Agotime. Blessings with Ziofe. Yeah. Okay, I'm making some progress. The Agotime Ziofe constituency of the Volta region. Just any comments?
No comment. Let's move to the next constituency.
Right, and so for the parliamentary election, first let's move over to the Akachi North constituency.
Honorable Peter Nochu.
That's quite a very good friend of the channel. Akachi North, Peter.
A good friend of the channel or your friend?
Oh, I'm a bona fide of this channel. So whoever is my friend is a friend of the channel.
Go ahead.
Right. So this is the Akachi North constituency. It used to be part of the what was then the Avenoave constituency. That's an amalgamation of the Akachis. And so Akachi North was carved out of Avenoave in 2012, and then Peter Nochu became the first MP for that constituency. So in 2016, the NPP got 1,379 votes. Peter Nochu garners 11,482. In 2020, NPP gets 4,577. Peter Nochu's vote dwindled from 11,000 to 9,770. It's a net loss of 21.2. That's troublesome.
That's huge.
That's quite huge.
That's huge.
That's in the north of 2,000 votes. And then the NPP gets 21.2 net gain. So it's proportional to the votes NPP NDC lost over there in terms of percentages.
Yeah.
So that's quite some issue. Now, if you
it appears that everything that the NPP lost, the NDC lost, went yes. to the NPP.
Now, in 2012, Peter Nochu wins with 83.0 as against the NPP's 15.0. In 2016, 89. So in 2016, he actually ups the number from 83 to 89. And then the NPP drops further from 15 to 10. And then in 2020, quite huge loss. I mean, I would have to ask him how can that thing happen. So this is a confirmation. The vote Peter Nochu, the ranking member on the Education Committee of Parliament, former teacher at Accra Academy.
He taught Rubenado.
He taught Rubenado.
He taught him literature.
Yes. 9,770. Ofosu Simon Peter Kofi, 4,575. So Peter Nochu from 2012 to 2020 has been MP for there. Now let's move over to the presidential election to see whether there was a repeat of the dwindling fortunes of the NDC. Because in 2016, Nana Akufo-Addo gets 1,222, John Mahama gets 11,448. In 2020, NPP gets 2,784, and NDC gets 11,160. So the John Mahama vote dwindled by a little over 300. So John Mahama doesn't appreciate his vote, but his vote actually dwindled in Akachi North by some 300 votes, and then the NPP gets 1,500 plus more votes.
Interestingly, John Mahama's net loss is proportional to
yes.
The net gain.
Just
of
a point two. 0.2 difference. And
but his net loss was at least lesser than.
That's not true, because Nochi should be in the north of
21.2%.
Yes, so quite huge. And so it tells you there's a popularity deficit in Akachi North, and that's one of the areas, and it should be looking at if it wants to wrestle power from the NPP, because I mean from 90 to 89 to 78.
Yeah.
And then NPP from 8.1, 9.5, from 9.5 straight to 19.7.
Yeah.
That's huge.
That's very huge.
That's quite huge. That's quite huge. And so, Justice, any comments?
Well, there's no comment. Let's move to the next constituency.
Right. And so from Akachi North, we go over to Akachi South. Now this used to be the used to be the mother constituency, Aveno Ave, and then it was carved. Akachi North was carved out, and then the remaining part became Akachi South. Now this is the constituency of the ranking member on the Parliamentary Committee on Constitutional and Legal Affairs, the Honorable Bernard Ahanyafo.
Right.
In 2016, the NPP got 850 votes. Bernard Ahanyafo garnered 16,916. In 2020, NPP gets 5,550 votes. NDC gets 31,624. Bless, from 16,916 to 31,924. That is almost double.
Yes.
Even though the NPP gets 4,000 votes more, and then their net gain is 11.9, and NDC's net gain is 27.4. Significant.
You bass people. The vote.
Now, so a confirmation of the result: Bernard Ahanyafo of the NDC 31,624, Leo Nelson Aji Doga of the NPP 5,550, the other candidate from the CPP 360, NDP 245. Now, Justice, from 96, this used to be the constituency of the former Speaker of Ghana's Parliament, you know, Right Honorable Edward Koblido Ajahu, from 96 to 2012. In fact, he won in 2012. But on the night or on the dawn of the resumption of the new Parliament in 2012, he was elected as Speaker of the House. So the House, the EC quickly had to conduct a by-election in 2012, and then Bernard Ahanyafo, becomes the new member by way of the by-election, and so he continues from then until 2020, where he's still the honorable member of Parliament for the area. So, Justice, how do you compare this? I mean, their neighboring constituency, Akachi North, seems to be having some deficit as far as NDC support is concerned, but on the southern side of Akachi, NDC is growing in leaps and bounds.
We must also consider the size of the two constituencies.
Yes.
Perhaps Akachi South may be, is it North? South may be bigger than
South is quite bigger, because South used to be the mother people,
in that constituency than that of Akachi North. As to what happened for MPP to garner such a significant
4,000
number of votes over there, it's something I cannot explain. But well, if you meet Honorable Ochukoto in Parliament,
should ask him.
Of course.
Right, so
next constituency,
presidential election, quickly.
Right.
John Mahama.
We have just about 10 minutes.
Okay, so John Mahama gets
we do the last constituency before we
544 as against the NPP. So John Mahama gets more votes than Nana Akufo-Addo, and gets more votes than the NDC's MP over there. Nana Akufo-Addo gets less votes than the PC over there, and so that is the dynamics over there. Now we are going to another important constituency in the Volta region. This is the Anglo constituency. Bless, I hope I'm right. The Anglo constituency in 2016, and I'll tell viewers why this is special. In 2016, NPP garners 2,451, NDC garners 22,216. in 2020, NPP gets a net gain of about 3,000 more votes. So their vote count rises from 2,451 to 5,802. But the NDC's vote count also rises from 22,000 to 38,722. In as much as the NPP's net gain is 5.9, the NDC's net gain is 23.
That's huge.
That's huge. So as the votes, the numbers are growing, NDC is growing. Now, this is the constituency of the Honorable Richard Kwame Sefe, a very good friend of Justice Appiah. Very good friend of him, great person. And so this is a confirmation of the result. Richard Kwame Sefe, 38,722 as against Seth Kwashi. Yomewu.
Is it Yomewu? Okay, yeah.
Yomewu.
Yeah.
5,802. The total voter roll has some 54,695 voters. Yeah, so this was the constituency of Clement Kofi Humadu. In fact, it has been won by the NDC, except for 2000, where one James Victor Beho, an independent candidate, won over the NDC's Clement Kwesi Sowu. But then in 2004, Clement Kofi Humadu comes on board and then wins from 2004 to 2016, and then Sefe comes on board in 2020 and continues the work over there. And so the presidential election will not be quite different, because John Mahama 38,744 as against Nana Akufo-Addo's 4,990. And so that is what the demographics are as far as the Anglo constituency are saying. And so just as quickly to our last constituency for today's program, and that is Central Tongue. Central Tongue. It was carved out of North Tongue, the old North Tongue constituency. So Hotoje Alexander Roosevelt of the NDC, he's a candidate over there. He has been a candidate since 2016. So in 2016, the NPP garnered 2,423, and NDC 25,955. In 2020, NPP gets 5,944. NDC gets 30,818. And so even though there's a net loss of 7.2 there for the NDC's votes increased by some 4,900 votes. And so that is the voter pattern. So Hotoje Alexander Roosevelt of the NDC, 30,818. Then Raymond Ablebu of the NPP, 5,944. Eugene Siabimensa of the NDP, 335. That's it. And so from 2004, Joe Gidisu, the venerable Joe Gidisu was MP until 2016, where Hotoje Alexander Roosevelt came on board and continued. In 2016, he actually won with a 90% margin, and then in 2020, it was just some 83. So there was a percentage drop in the numbers over there. In the presidential election, John Mahama gets 32,573 as against Nana Akufo-Addo's 3,951. So just as this is the numbers as far as Central Tongue is concerned. And then finally, we cross over to Ho Central. Ho Central, that is the constituency of Benjamin Komlak-Odo. He is not contesting this year, of course. Now, the numbers are quite huge. I mean, in 2016, the NPP got 6,031, the NDC got 47,330. In 2020, NPP gets 10,061, NDC gets 67,180. Quite a margin. And so then NDC gets a net gain of 5.5, NPP gets a net gain of 2.6. And so Benjamin Ho is 60, popular. Yes, 67,000. This is actually Ho municipal.
Yes.
Central Ho.
Yes.
And so Benjamin Komlak-Odo, Prosper Kofi P. Bansa, 10,061. PNC gets 776. The LPG gets 549, and then NDP 439. So Kofi Atto, I think he's now one of the advisors to the Right Honorable Speaker. So he was MP 96 to 2000, 2004. Captain George Kofi Fodo, he was MP until 2008, and then in 2012, Benjamin Podo contests against the current Volta regional minister, Dr. Archibald Yao-Lecha, and then in 2016, NS Yao-Gewu, who is now a justice of the Supreme Court of Ghana, NS Yao-Gewu, and in fact he was part of the panel that ruled over.
We have 2 minutes.
The application for stay of execution over the speaker's ruling on Friday, NS Yao-Gewu. And so, Justice, that is all there is as far as the Volta reading is for today. I'm sure tomorrow we'll come and deal with others. Now, we also have one swing tomorrow, but in the Volta reading, it's just one swing.
So
the whole work
we'll deal with that one, and then
one swing tomorrow, and then
deal with other constituencies like the K2
North, K2 South,
Keta.
Yes, Keta.
And then the Honorable Ablakwa's constituency,
North Tong.
We'll deal with those constituencies, God willing, tomorrow. We have just like 1 minute to go. 1 minute to go. Bless your final words.
Right. So I think that the Volta region would continue to be charitable to the National Democratic Congress. We are not going to see anything different come 2024, except that I think that there's going to be an appreciation of votes for John Mahama and the members of parliament, or the parliamentary candidates who will be standing to become members of parliament in the upcoming elections. That's all I'll say as far as the Volta region is concerned.
Thank you so much, Bless. Thank you so much, Greg. This all time will allow us on today's edition of Election Focus right here on Pan African Television. Make a time with us same time tomorrow. My name is Justice Appiah, and I did this with my colleagues Bless Koku Alomaso and Greg Amwa. Have a lovely afternoon. Goodbye.
Peaches at a James, and something got a hold of me. Go on.